Hi everyone, it's Miss April again. Welcome to Creating Connections, Session 6, Acceptance and Empathy. This session does have a lot of words, so bear with me in trying to understand the overall meaning that we want you to have in order to focus on being more conscious, disciplined, alert in your everyday life. There are some strategies for students in here, but again, this is really a personal shift that you will have to make in order to incorporate conscious discipline into your home or classroom. So, in acceptance and empathy, the attitude shift is going to be harnessing the power of acceptance. The reason is to understand the moment is what it is. We're going to work on understanding empathy and how we can integrate it into our lives, the power of acceptance, and the value of compassion. Of all the languages in the world, the most difficult language in which to communicate is the language of feelings. Feelings are hard to communicate as an adult, and they are even more difficult as a child. What happens is when we discuss the brain states, the feelings come from the emotional state, not the executive state. So, therefore, we naturally have a hard time articulating exactly what we are feeling. So, one of the shifts that we want to make as we practice being more aware of conscious discipline in our own lives, accepting the current moment as it is versus what we think it should be. Acceptance is the non judgmental acknowledgement and awareness of the present experience. I will tell you that this is difficult for me. Sometimes my focus in managing people, in being a mom, and being a wife is I know, or I would like to think I know how things should be. And through my children, through my employees, through my students, through my husband, you have to be able to alter. You have to be able to roll with it at some level. So that's one of the skills that really helps you become accepting is this situation is what it is. Don't try to glorify it up. View it for what it's worth. Another way to encourage acceptance is making the shift from you're okay or you're fine to actually describing how that student is feeling. Teach that new skill. Your face is going like this. You seem this because you wanted this. So let's throw some words in there. Your face is going like this. You seem frustrated because you wanted that Lego. Your face is telling me that you're angry. You seem upset because you wanted to go out. One of the things that we use at the preschool is you can ask one of the preschool friends, tell me, look at your friend's face. What does it look like? And you would be amazed at that connection that even our littlest humans can make. They can look at someone and immediately say and recognize they're not smiling, they look worried. So we try to make those connections to actually describe what is happening in that moment. Again, what we're trying to get is our heart and our brain to connect. The power of acceptance sometimes is misunderstood, and it can be considered almost that you aren't doing the things that people have socially accepted and want you to do. So it can be equated with passivity, that you're settling or that you're suddenly approving of someone's poor behavior or judgment. We can accept the current moment, yet still have a preference of a different way. This is where the shoulds come up, and here is the power to shift. We can have all the should haves and could haves, but sometimes all the time, you have to recognize the situation that you are in, whether good or bad. It's not that your child should be able to put their shoes on without a fit. It is that they are melting down on the floor out of complete frustration. Accept that they are crying in frustration. Acknowledge that they are frustrated. Once we accept that, then we can help them manage it and actually be able to put on their shoes. It's not that you should be able to leave the room for 5 minutes without bickering starting up. That's my house right now because it's the end of summer. Except that the kids are going to argue over their toys, a spot on the couch, who's doing the chores. Recognize that. Say, wow, it looks like you guys are really arguing over specifically, and it must make you feel frustrated. Then offer them some tools. You can do the STAR tools, all the breathing options that we have talked about. Then teach them the words to use. If they're struggling taking turns, teach them words. Model. Let them see that this frustrating situation can actually turn out and be a successful learning moment. Do you know that it takes about 2,000 times in context to learn a new skill and be able to transfer it? So all of you exhausted parents out there, you are exhausted for very good reason. When I speak of exhausted parents, sometimes we also have exhausted kids. All upset stems from resistance, which comes from the emotional state of the brain, and it consumes a ton of energy. Once we choose to accept the moment as it is and gain composure, then we can use our energy to be productive, to help teach our kids how to calm down and solve the issues at hand. We can do the same thing for ourselves. Yes, I can focus on how terrible and unfortunate this situation may seem. But again, acknowledging this is where I'm at will move you to a different brain state where then you are able to problem solve. Telling a child how to do it is important, yet modeling it is more impactful. And I take that as a leader in my building to do the same thing. When my teachers are frustrated, I can be frustrated and freak out with them, or I can be empathetic and accepting that this is how they're feeling, recognizing it, and then immediately start problem solving. Some of the things that we can practice in order to do this are being in the moment by noticing and describing them to yourself or to your kids. If you are a parent, one of the wonderful things that you can do is you can add a good night ritual to bedtime, saying good night to every little part of your kiddos and giving them a smooch. Good night eyebrows, good night ears, good night forehead, good night. This helps accept the child for who they are and where they are at. Really a beautiful way to end the night. When starting to get upset, when things are not going the way you think they should, breathe deeply and affirm this moment is as it is, and I can relax and move forward. Again, I think those are really powerful tools. We are in control of them. We can choose to use them. And when we do, again, it's such a simple affirmation to ourselves. This moment is as it is, and I can relax and then move forward. When it comes to empathy, we're going to kind of shift from acceptance to empathy, which I think are two friends and sometimes can get interwoven. This skill is one of the hardest to learn in the process of changing how we parent, due to how our brains are pre-wired and predisposed to respond based on how we were raised. Yet empathy has a huge impact in building relationships. Let's take a look. Empathy requires us to listen to a child's feelings and not try to change them with "you're fine" or "it's okay." I can be guilty of that. I manage a lot of little people in a day, my students and my own, and sometimes my priorities can get out of whack. Sometimes we try to distract our kids with a phone or a toy or a snack to avoid another upset. The skill of empathy determines that we acknowledge the upset and help children manage the feeling. I always laugh at Walmart because my oldest is 21. So 20 years ago, you didn't have your phone just to pass out to your kid in the store. And I'm pretty sure that I have hauled out the majority of my children once out of a store for their misbehavior. And I laugh now because almost every toddler in the Walmart cart has a phone, which, as we know, not a way to keep that connection or to teach a new skill. So some of those examples, yes, they may work, but they will only work temporarily. Yet, as time goes on, we will have more feelings about situations and reach for something to distract and not allow those feelings to be acknowledged within themselves. And then we become adults who throw fits or minimize each other's emotions. Let's teach management now and how to move through big feelings. We may do the same thing as an adult. When you're fighting with your husband, I can be one that shuts down. Easier, feels safer for me to shut down. Once I acknowledge where we're at, then I can go back and say, this is how I was feeling, and try not to solve it with other things like potato chips or watching TV or simply moving on. So even though we're discussing the ways in which we might do that for kids, we also do that for ourselves. Empathy has a misconception, like acceptance, that if we are empathetic, we are joining in the pain of another. This is like saying we are helping a friend with food poisoning by eating the contaminated food. This is important. Empathy is seeing the person who is upset as capable to handle the situation and emotions involved. Again, when we talk about our power and giving that power to other people, this is one of those things. Being empathetic says, I know that you can handle this. I know that you can figure this out. Rest assured that limits still have to be set for behaviors, even though you can be accepting and empathetic. Like we've said, it is not a free-for-all. Yet children will be better equipped to handle the limits that we set because we've seen the moment from their perspective and we have modeled for them what the expectation is. If we have put ourselves in their shoes for just a minute, we are being accepting and empathetic. The DNA formula to empathy. The D stands for describe, the N stands for name, and the A stands for acknowledge. Describe what you see. Your face is going like this. Your face looks like this. The N for name. When the child looks up, catch their eyes and name the feeling. You seem angry. Use a questioning tone in case the child needs to correct the feeling and it has been misinterpreted. Again, give them that power. Acknowledge. Quickly acknowledge what they have named by describing their desire. You wanted a turn with the toy and you didn't know how to ask. Or if we don't know, then respond with what happened. The DNA process helps to move the child from the emotional state to a calm state where they are much more likely to solve the problem. Once they are in the calm state, teach them the new skill. Here's an example. When you want to turn, tap Sophie on the shoulder. Wait for her to look at you. Remember how important eye contact is. Then ask, may I have a turn, please? Tell them exactly what you want them to do. They don't need to be guessing. They don't need to be making assumptions. Offer them those tools so that, again, we're really creating that power and that confidence. Within each of our classrooms, one of the best ways to continually create connection is through some of the I love you rituals. We had talked about those before, and I just wanted to show you. Conscious Discipline does have a book. It is called I Love You Rituals. It goes through all different ones. They're pretty simple, but they do help connect. One of the ones that we use at the school when a student has been gone for a while, it's called You've Been Gone. You've been gone and you've been missed. Here's an angel for a hello kiss. And it goes through just little, you can use puppets, you can use your fingers. It goes through different motions. So again, it's enticing for young students. It can be enticing for your own children. Again, a good night ritual can and should include an I love you ritual. There are developmental levels of empathy. You can find that in doing some more research with Conscious Discipline so that, again, you do have an appropriate expectation for the level of child that you are working with. As we wrap up session 6, one of the commitments that we can make is the how do we? How do we actually incorporate this into our life? For acceptance, practice being in the moment peacefully by noticing things around you and describing them. What you see, what you smell, what you hear. Shadows all of that without any judgment. When you find yourself upset when things aren't going your way, take a deep breath and remind yourself the moment is as it is. When it comes to empathy, practice noticing your own feelings and how they manifest in your body. Do you get a stomach ache? Do you get a little bit nervous? Can you feel it? Does your mouth get dry? Do you sweat? Notice those things about your own body. Accept your feelings and provide empathy to your child when they are upset by using the DNA method. Describe what you see, name the feeling, and acknowledge the desire. Provide empathy to your child or student during a tantrum, trying to stop it once it's started. And separate disrespect from disobedience. So do those breathing techniques. Get your own self in a place where you can then help your child move through. You can also create those I love you rituals between you and your students or you and your children. Those are always positive ways to continue to create connection each and every day. All right, we'll talk soon. Thank you.